recording, so I'm going. So we're starting the recording just a bit late. I want to make sure that I jump in now because I'm about to give the real reasons of how we can make these math lessons meet all of these needs. So one of the resources that I turn to is our Teaching Adults Math Resource book. And if you actually look inside that book, there's some really interesting things that you can find. I'm just going to give you a quick preview. This is something you can do on our website. But when you go into the contents of this book, one of the things I noted in here was really, really important was this CRA model, concrete, representational, and abstract. And this is something that I had gone years without using in my elementary experiences. And I found myself going back to that early childhood education and saying, oh, this works with adults. So as I did that, I found that I could take the CRA model, which is a model that creates real connections to mathematical concepts. And it incorporates all of the three basic learning preferences that we know, auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. And so the concrete, representational, abstract model incorporates teaching the math concept using specific manipulatives, then transitioning into the representational image to represent that concept, and then again taking the next step into the abstract where you're actually showing the concept using numbers and symbols. And so many of my students were like, just show me the steps, just show me the steps. I'll remember it, I'll remember it. And what they were trying to do was to just stick with procedures over and over again, just procedure after procedure after procedure. And that wasn't working for them. So here's an example of one of the things I did. I'm actually going to hide my video now for just a moment so that we can focus on the screen that I have sharing. This is the first example. The concrete manipulative I started with was, that's right, candy, yum, candy. So you've got Valentine's Day sneaking up on you here. And I'm going to tell you that this is one of the best ways to get your students engaged. So here's what happened. We used the candy and I provided a representational image of that concept. So I had students take a small bag of snack size M&Ms and they sorted them and they built a table. Then they took the M&Ms and placed them into different types of graphs, bar graphs, line graphs, pie charts. And finally, they used colored pencils to actually color in what they were representing. Now, what this did was it took the students from this place of, I see all these graphs and charts, I don't know how to read them, and it made it very, very meaningful to them. It made it concrete for them, so they really made a connection with the mathematics. In the end, we were able to take some of that concrete material and put it into the abstract form. Now, one of the things I loved about this particular lesson was that I could take it anywhere I wanted. I could differentiate with whatever class I was teaching in math. So I could stick with just the lessons with the charts and graphs. I could move into addition or summation where I can say, add all the different colors together. How many do you have all together? Add the red and green together. Of course, subtraction, I could do the same thing. I could say, if you take away all of the green M&Ms, how many do you have left? Or as you eat them, how many are left? And I could do that on a very, very low math literacy level. But then I could also push this to higher levels with students that were ready for that as well, where we could work on fractions. What fraction of the total is green? What fraction of the total is red? And then we could also turn that into percentages. What percentage of the total is yellow? And then the next thing we did was we could even take it to a higher level of algebra where we could talk specifically about what was unknown. If we didn't know how many reds there were, but we knew there were this many total, what would that be? And so we could learn to find the unknown. So this particular lesson really lent itself to the differentiation or really turning it into whatever I wanted it to be. Another example of a concrete manipulative that I used is something most people can find in their own household, a deck of cards. What I did was I removed all the face cards and I went into, that's a tough one, Matthew. I saw your comment about being able to use this in incarceration. I have experienced that. I taught at the Scott County Jail, and I can tell you I was also challenged by this, but have no fear. I've got some ideas coming. So I took these cards, I removed the face cards, and then I decided to have them complete different activities. So you can see the list in front of my students is to do different things with those cards. And again, it addressed different areas and different math concepts. One of my favorite ways of using cards was actually to move into equivalent fractions, because equivalent fractions are where it's at. There are so many different things you can do with equivalent fractions, where you learn how to create common denominators, where you learn how to create proportions. And of course, you can also take that into the algebraic concepts as well. And I love this because fractions, proportions, and rates, oh my. What I love about this is there's a big question mark there. And adult students don't seem to mind when there's a question mark there. But I would always tell my students, don't freak out. I'm going to replace that question mark with an N, and it's going to be okay because you can do it. And so I was taking some of these low-level math literacy students and actually being able to push them into the algebra when they didn't think they were capable of doing it. Another example of a concrete manipulative that you can use in your classrooms is dice. And this is absolutely one of my favorites because dice do two things. They are concrete, but they also are representational. There's not a number here, there's dots. There's a representation of how many there are. So it serves both of those purposes right off the bat. And my favorite lesson using dice was actually learning fact families. I found it unusual how many adult students understood addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division as separate entities. And when I started to show them the connection, by the end of one 90-minute lesson with fact families, I was able to get these students to move into solving one-step algebra equations. And it was astounding how easy it was. And I'm going to show you a quick video here of the students taking this into the abstract level.
Four and a 3.
3, 4.
Yeah. Okay. 3 and 4.
Oh, God.
We got this. 4 plus 3 is 7. And then 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 minus 7 minus.
Notice how she's struggling. And you might even notice how she actually has a division symbol, the student on the right, rather than a subtraction symbol. And that was something we discussed after, was how important the symbols were in learning the abstract of math. She knew what she was doing, but she was using the wrong symbols.
Okay, now do the multiplication and division.
So we started with addition and subtraction, and you can see the worksheets next to them are following the same procedures. And so we moved it into, okay, let's use our dry erase boards. Dry erase boards, by the way, are key in any adult classroom. I loved using them when students would complete the work and then they would show it above their head to me. I could see it. The other students weren't really paying attention, and I could see who was getting it and who wasn't immediately. So I had instant feedback for which students were needing that remediation or for a little bit additional attention while in the classroom.
Huh? Yeah.
It also, for some reason, makes them feel a lot better about mistakes because they can quickly erase them. And they learned mistakes were for learning rather than feeling bad about the mistakes they were making. And here we go with the division. There's that division symbol again.
Now we got it by. Now we got it. So
And this is where the students struggled.
12 divided by.
It was always subtraction and division. And once I was able to get them to relate those concepts as connected and meaningful and important to one another, by the end of this class, we were doing algebra. I'm going to jump ahead here and say, I know what you're thinking. What about when I'm teaching remotely? What about when I'm in an incarceration situation? What can I do? Now, incarceration is a little bit different because you may want to have some specific types of manipulatives that you can use that might be allowed. However, if you're teaching remotely, it's amazing what's out there now. Some of my favorites are transom.org. Teacherled.com has a really neat, I'm just going to share both of these with you because we have time. So this is a dice spinner. I can roll this dice and see what it lands on. Here's one where you can select 2 dice, or you can go to 3 dice if you want to. And this is another way to differentiate. You start with 1 dice, and then you move to 2, and then you move to 3 with different activities. So there's different types of dice that are found on just this one page. And I happen to love Transom. It has wonderful starters of the day, as well as some great interactive manipulatives. Another one, this is just a really neat dice that I found this morning. There's so much more virtual than there was when we first started transitioning. And I had a whole closet full of manipulatives that I packed up when I left my classroom in March of 2020. I have not been back to that classroom since. And so this is one of those fun interactives that I found was really, really successful. And then the other thing that happened was I discovered Learning Upgrade. And Learning Upgrade is great because it has these built-in interactive visual lessons that adult learners really, really thrive with. So that's the next thing I wanted to show you, was actually how Learning Upgrade has courses that fit right into this. So the course that connected specifically with this was solving one-step equations. So if you're not familiar with Learning Upgrade, I'm going to show you just a quick demonstration of that solve one-step equations. This is found in Math Upgrade 8, Lesson 13.
Here is a simple algebra equation. X minus 2 equals 3. To solve the equation, we need to know the value of x. X equals something. In other words, we need to get the x alone on the left side of the equation. An equation is like a balance. Anything we do to one side, we have to also do to the other side to keep it in balance. We need an operation to perform that will eliminate the minus 2 from the left side, leaving the x alone. If we add 2 to both sides, the minus 2 and plus 2 will cancel out on the left, leaving just x. On the right side, 3 plus 2 equals 5. So the answer is x equals 5. We can check this answer. Substitute 5 into the original equation. 5 minus 2 equals 3. It works! Now a tougher one. 3 plus x equals negative 6. Subtract 3 from both sides. The 3 and negative 3 cancel out. Negative 6 minus 3 equals negative 9. So the answer is x equals negative 9. How about this equation? 4x equals 8. 4x means 4 times x. To eliminate the 4, do the opposite. Divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 equals 1. So the 4's cancel out, and 8 divided by 4 equals 2. So the answer is x equals 2. Now for division. X over 5 equals 2. To eliminate the 5, do the opposite. Multiply both sides by 5. The 5's cancel out, and 2 times 5 equals 10. So the answer is x equals 10. Notice, you can solve these simple equations with just one operation. These are one-step algebra equations. Now it's your turn.
Okay.
Figure out the operation to solve this equation. Type it into the calculator and press enter. For example, to add 6 to both sides, type plus 6 and enter into the calculator.
So what I love about this is not only was the entire introduction to Learning Upgrade completely and totally visual, walk them through how to do this with all 4 symbols, and now they can actually do an interaction where they have a calculator here and they can follow the steps along using this information. So it's a wonderful resource for getting started. I'm going to back out of this just because I don't want to spend too much time in there. I'd like to show you a little bit more, a couple of other examples of some concrete ways to bring this type of learning into the classroom. But Learning Upgrade is a fantastic tool. If you're not familiar with it, reach out to us. Our sales representatives are available, and I can actually link to that for you. Let me jump in here and make sure you have a link so that if you're interested in even trying or piloting the program, on our website, you can go to find a sales rep, and I will pop this into the chat as well for you. So if anyone is interested in that product, checking it out, looking a little bit more deeply into it, that's the link to find your sales rep to see if you can do a pilot or purchase. Let me go back into my concrete examples here, and let's look at example number 4. So this one's fun. I love Dollar Tree, or as we're now calling it, $1.25 tree. I found these great little pool tables, and we had so much fun because my students found this lesson to be extremely meaningful. If you are trying to teach geometry dry, don't. Take out a pool table, talk about who plays pool, get the students interested in how angles and degrees are one of the things that can really help them be better at the game. So I actually started with a video starter, then I did a whole guided practice. Now for this particular lesson in class, I used Math Antics. So if you're not familiar with this, the videos on Math Antics are completely free. Again, they are extremely visual. So let me just show you. Math Antics video.
Hi, welcome to Math Antics. In our last geometry video, we learned some important things about angles. One of the things we learned was that angles come in different sizes.
There's
some
always
are
a
big
review.
And some are small. Well, in this video, we're going to learn how we can tell exactly how big or small an angle is. We're going to learn how angles are measured. You probably already know a lot about measurement, like how you measure how long something is with a ruler or a tape measure. And the units you would use would be inches or centimeters or something like that, right? But when it comes to angles, we can't use a ruler to measure them or use units like centimeters. And that's because angles aren't about length. Angles are about rotation. And to measure how much something is rotated, we use a special unit called degrees. Now hold on a second. I thought degrees were used to measure how hot or cold something is. You know, like, it's 100 degrees outside today.
Okay, so this is a great example of a visual video. These videos are actually built into one of our other products, New Readers Press Online Learning. The pre-HSE products have some of these Math Antics videos built right into them. I'm going to just jump out of that. That's just an example. I have an account, so I have access to exercises and worksheets with this, but I can tell you that this also directly ties to Learning Upgrade. So what I found was, as we moved through this, and I love this, my students, they were on the floor, they were on the tables, they were bent over furniture, having just such a good time. That's my pool shark right up here. He was so excited to go back to the pool hall and try this out and absolutely learn geometry in about a week after this. And it was something he had never connected with. He never understood. So the next thing that I want to show you is the abstract concept of that, where I pulled it into Learning Upgrade, the Angle Basics and Angle Measures lesson that's found in Math Upgrade 5. And another concrete example that I have is money. So this is one that I found was very useful teaching remotely because most people have a change jar. But the concept that I wanted to teach was actually place value. So I used a place value money sorting chart. I would talk to my students and say, okay, let's talk, because specifically students struggle with the decimal place value. Understanding the idea of tenths and hundredths is so much easier if you can sit there and count out your pennies and then trade them into the bank for your dime. So it really helps them to understand the concept of carrying, regrouping, whatever term you use in your math class, so that they could understand where hundredths and tenths came from, as well as building into that. So a couple of sample virtual manipulatives that I used, again, found on transom.org. This one is new in place value chart. What I love about this place value chart is how I can actually build and start with 1s and 10s, and I can go bigger and bigger and bigger. And we can actually type numbers in here so that we can say, well, where does the 1 go in 10,000s? And if I have 12,000, where does that go? And then you can go the other direction as well and go into tens, hundreds, thousands, and so forth and so on. Great freebie there. Decimal lines, another excellent interactive, because I can mark this with decimals. I can make changes to say whatever I want to be. I can go into integers if I want to and go into negatives. And then I can actually place in here to see if I'm putting it in the right place. Each one of these goes into their location. And it's a really fantastic interactive way. Very often I would use this to demonstrate in class. And so I would share this on my screen. And then as I'm sharing it on my screen, I would have the students guide me in the chat box to say, where do you think this should go? Should it go more to the right, more to the left? Where do you think, before or after this number? And it was a really great way to really let them connect with the concept of both number lines as well as what place value means. Again, we would move from the representational aspect into the abstract concept. And one of the best lessons I found was Math Upgrade 4, Lesson 38 for decimal place value. I saw a comment in here about this being a sales pitch. Let me tell you this. I am an adult educator, and I moved into this position because I love these programs. So while it might sound like I'm giving you a sales pitch, Marianne, I promise you, the reason I'm sharing these sources with you is because I found them to be so valuable in my own classroom. So I apologize if it sounds like that. I really just love the programs, and it's part of why I have this job. Let me jump back into Learning Upgrade and again show you, we've got Math Upgrade 4, Lesson 38. Take a quick look at decimal place value.
Remember place value? Well, we're going to add some more places, but this time to the right, after a decimal point. Decimal numbers have digits to the right of the decimal point. These places are called the tenths place, hundredths place, and thousandths place. The tenths place means this is the amount of 1/10. Thus, the number 0.5 means 5/10, and 0.02 means 2/100. These are very small numbers, much less than 1. Let's go through decimal place value.
Okay, now this is where the song comes in. I saw a comment in the chat, Tracy. She said, please advise how to encounter those that may say that the videos and graphics are immature. Tracy, I hear you. I think that's something that we have talked to the developers about. And I understand where that might feel that way. In fact, I hesitated when I was initially introduced to this program to even use it because of that. And the funny thing is, while I felt that way, my students didn't mind. In fact, what was interesting to me is I would have them walk into the classroom singing some of the songs the next day. And sure, they might have thought it was a little bit silly, but they still enjoyed it and they still connected to it. And oddly, it helped them with their memory and their retention. So I was astounded at how it bothered them less than it bothered me. And I found that using it for guided practice, especially. So I'm actually, because I am a teacher and I have Learning Upgrade as a teacher account, I can actually skip over this.
Place value time. Listen to this number and choose the matching number from the choices. Press the speaker button to hear it again. 6 25/100.
And I found this to be one of the more valuable ways to actually work with the students, to demonstrate for them using the guided practice. So again, in a remote learning environment, I would share this on my screen. We would do some of the questions together, and then later I would have them go home. Now, Learning Upgrade was developed to be more of a binge learning environment where they encourage you to have mastery before you move into the next. And so I see another person saying my students like videos more like this than the others. And I agree with that. I think sometimes when I would show math antics, that's when my students would take a restroom break. And I went, wait, you need to stay here. This is important. And it was part of my direct instruction, but my students thought, oh, she's putting a video on, time to go to the bathroom. And with this, they didn't. And so it was really unusual, the different reactions that adult students had to this program and this platform. One more example for you before we end for today. I have another concrete manipulative that, again, this was used mainly by preschoolers, but I found this to be extremely valuable when they had a hands-on way to understand fractions differently. And we use these tangrams, or these are called pattern blocks if you're looking to find something like this online. Again, I found some foam pattern blocks in my local Dollar Tree. And here's what I did with those. I created some very challenging, this was actually created through ucubed.com, a fantastic resource for a professor that works at Stanford. They offer some classes through Stanford on teaching mathematics and new ways of teaching mathematics. But this was one of the ways that we were trying to say, if the yellow hexagon equals one whole, which combinations of shapes show 2/3 plus 1/2? And so the students had to sit and play and say, okay, wait a minute, if I put these together, is it a half? Is it 2/3? And these challenges were such a great way to really get started and being able to understand how fractions are really a representation of the number and how these visuals were able to really help them make that concept concrete. This is an example of the students using it right here. You can see the sheet in front of them.
Are they?
Yes, it's Joe Bowler, Lisa.
How many of
Love
those
her,
make,
love her, love her. Took a couple of
one
her
whole?
courses.
Okay.
So I have to share, because as you watch this student struggle, at
So
the end
yesterday
of
we
it,
started fractions and talked about
he had the
how many
aha
out of
moment
how
that
many,
we look
right?
for anytime we teach.
How many parts out of how many
And
holes?
he is now a high
So
school
what do you have right
equivalency
there?
graduate. And I got the biggest hug from him at
If you were to
graduation.
write that as a fraction. Very good. Good. So you have not 6 holes in 1/2, 6/6, which is 1. And then your red one is 1/2. Good.
You can really
But
see
is
the
that
hesitation
what
they
the
have
question is
here
asking?
in whether or not they're connecting with it. But by the end of this, he was like, oh, I get it. And that's the moment we all look
Maybe
for.
try some other shapes, see what you can come up with.
Again, I always want to encourage you to use virtual manipulatives, because I know how challenging it can be right now, jumping in and out, face to face, and then back to remote, and then back to face to face. But I loved using this one in my classroom as well. I would project this on the overhead long before COVID even hit. So I started out with this concept of what fraction of this rectangle has been shaded blue. I'll give you a moment. Go ahead and put your answers into the chat if you think you know already. This is one of my favorites. Can you see it? Are you able to identify what fraction of this rectangle has been shaded blue? Tracy put in an answer. Who else wants to join me? Okay. Now, what's great about this transom starter is this. Watch what happens when I click this clue button. It moves everything into the place. And then you can instantly see, oh, there are 3 rows and one of those rows is blue. The red one down here does the same thing, but it was a lot of fun to bring some of these into the classroom virtually and face-to-face. There's also a tangram table that they have that I love, where you can actually move these around and say, oh, okay, these two can make a triangle. You can flip things around and see what else you can make. Lots of fun playing with these to see how you can rotate them and move them around and fit them together. A lot of fun. Again, there's a fraction dissect, and this one's really interesting because this actually has you connect the dots to draw lines between them to produce the fraction that was indicated. So if I'm looking for 1/2, right, I can connect here to here. 1/4, how many different ways can I do this? Can I connect from one dot to the other? All different types of levels within this. So here's a level where it's shaded, and then you're trying to determine what the fraction is. Another level within fraction dissect, using different shapes so that we're moving from rectangles and squares to circles. Of course, my favorite, equivalent fractions are where it's at. So being able to find what 1/2 looks like in its varying forms, what 1/3 looks like in its varying forms. And this is one of those things that can really help students connect. Thanks for joining us, to anyone who has to leave early. I know that our lunch and learns are usually only a half an hour long. I asked for 45 minutes because I had so much to share. Let me pop in here and close out. If anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer any questions that you might have. Feel free to pop those into the chat. I was going to give you another demonstration of the fractions lesson in Learning Upgrade, but I also want to go back to what we did, which was how's the weather? Because one of my favorite tools to use in a remote classroom is all of the free Google apps that are available. So I'm going to jump in here and look at some of those results. This is one of the ways that I loved to get in and talk about the differences in temperature. We can go into science. We can go into social study, talking about the distance. Again, here I am working with charts and graphs to see what is everyone doing. So using that Google form, when I go to the responses, I get all these different great things we can use to learn more about reading charts and graphs. The other great thing that this does is I can automatically put this into a Google spreadsheet, and then I can share all of these with the students and we can talk about what we're seeing here. Of course, I want to make sure I click on this and center everything, make it all the same size. Let's make everything 14. We can jump in here and now I can do a lesson with integers, teaching positive and negative numbers. So one of the best tools I've ever used in teaching remotely was teaching students how to use these free Google apps. I consider that a lesson in mathematics, but I also consider it a life lesson and a work skill lesson, because the more these students know how to use these apps, the more marketable they are to the professionals, to the professions out there. So please, I'm looking into the chat to see if there are any questions, and happy to answer anything that you have, happy to show you anything else that you want. Otherwise, I'm going to close out our webinar and say thank you so much for joining me. If you're interested in any of the products, of course, go to newreaderspress.com. You can search math. There are some sales happening right now with math. Again, you can reach out to your sales rep if you're interested in piloting anything, or if you're wanting to try out some of these tools to see what I see, which is how valuable they are. And next month, I'm going to be doing the perfect pair, talking a little bit about how to use Learning Upgrade and New Readers Press online learning together. So please join me next month. You'll see that come into your email. And I'd love to have everyone join me then. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. Do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. This is my contact information. So jump in. I'm reachable at the phone number 309-445-3949, as well as my email address are Budde. Yes, it's spelled funny. It's Budde, not Y, at ProLiteracy.org. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Have a great day. Joy, when you jump into Learning Upgrade for Math, you're going to love some of the interactive features in there and some of the interactive lessons. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.